In the dark shadow of the Kingdom of England, a woman was trapped, her fate woven with tragic threads. Anne Boleyn, a captivating and ambitious figure, became entangled in a bloody circle of love that turned into hell. From the desire to attain power to the heart-wrenching betrayals, her life reached the pinnacle of glory before plummeting into the abyss of despair. Anne Boleyn was born around the year 1501 or 1507 at Bleckley Hall, Norfolk, England. She was the second daughter of Sir Thomas Boleyn, an English nobleman who later became the Earl of Wiltshire and Ormond, and Lady Elizabeth Howard, the daughter of Thomas Howard, Earl of Surrey, and a woman from a prominent noble family. At a young age, Anne Boleyn was sent to the Netherlands and France to receive a better education. In France, she became a lady-in-waiting to Queen Claude of France and learned the culture and language of French, which later became her asset. During her time as Queen Claude's lady-in-waiting, Anne stood out among the other ladies-in-waiting. She was known as an ambitious, charming, intelligent, witty, and quite fashionable woman. Anne also had standards for any man who wanted to approach her. Despite her position as a servant to the Queen, Anne showed that she had refined thinking. The Queen greatly admired Anne and didn't hesitate to praise her in a letter addressed to Thomas Boleyn, Anne's father. Unfortunately, in July 1524, Queen Claude passed away, and Anne had to return to England. When Anne returned to England, some historical records indicate that she later joined the court of Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII's wife, as a lady-in-waiting to the Queen. There are no clear records on how she became a lady-in-waiting to the Queen, but it is speculated that she obtained the position through family connections or relationships built while working as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Claude in France. Anne Boleyn indeed possessed charm and intelligence that captured the attention of many men of her time. Her striking beauty, long black hair, sharp eyes, and fair skin enchanted the hearts of many men. However, her allure was not solely based on her captivating appearance, but also on her intelligent, confident, and strong-willed personality. Anne Boleyn had several romantic relationships recorded in history. One of them was her relationship with Henry Percy, Earl of Northumberland. They were involved in a serious love affair and were believed to have secretly engaged. However, their marriage was opposed. According to some sources, during that time, any member of the royal family who wanted to marry had to obtain the approval of the king. At that time, Henry VIII didn't approve of Anne's relationship with Percy because, in his opinion, Anne's status as a lady-in-waiting was not worthy of marrying Percy, who was a member of the royal family. Besides the king, Percy's family also opposed their relationship, citing that Percy had been betrothed. Eventually, they were separated, and Percy was forced to marry a bride chosen by his family. Additionally, apart from Percy, there is speculation that Anne Boleyn was also involved in a brief love affair with Thomas Wyatt, a famous poet of that time. This relationship was believed to have occurred when Anne resided in France as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Claude. However, some sources claim that this relationship never existed because there is no strong evidence to support it. But others state that the relationship did exist and ended because Wyatt already had a wife. Losing Percy was an emotional blow to Anne, but it didn't stop her charm. An ambition to attain power. And eventually, her charm and beauty reached Henry VIII, the man who would lead her to the Queen's sanctuary and also send the best swordsman to sever her neck. As a lady-in-waiting to Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn certainly had the opportunity to be close to King Henry VIII. Her beauty and captivating personality caught Henry's attention, and he became interested in Anne. But Anne was a clever woman. She knew that Henry was a playboy, having many mistresses, and how he discarded those women after having fun with them. Anne firmly rejected Henry's request to become his mistress. She wanted to be his wife. She had ambitions to replace Catherine of Aragon as Henry's wife and gain greater recognition and power. Anne used her charm and intelligence to play a game of attraction with Henry. She kept her distance, refused to give herself easily, and made Henry more obsessed with her. At that time, King Henry VIII had a desire to have a son, but Queen Catherine only gave him a daughter, Mary, who later became known as Bloody Mary. Anne Boleyn promised a son to King Henry VIII, but he had to divorce the Queen and marry her. Henry eventually divorced Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, and married Anne. Catherine of Aragon, as a loyal wife, refused to let herself be divorced and refused to acknowledge their divorce as valid. However, Henry was deeply obsessed with Anne and his belief that she could provide him with the desired male heir to continue the Tudor lineage. Henry's desire to obtain approval for the divorce and his marriage to Anne sparked a major conflict with the Roman Catholic Church. He also requested the annulment of his marriage to the Queen and the removal of their child, Mary, from the line of succession. The Pope and the Church rejected his request and did not recognize the divorce, considering Henry and Anne's marriage as adultery. This triggered the formation of the Church of England, separate from papal authority, with Henry as its head. A historic event known as the English Reformation had just taken place, and the king did it all to be able to marry Anne Boleyn. In 1533, Anne Boleyn was finally crowned as the Queen of England after Henry VIII decided to divorce Catherine of Aragon and separate the Church of England from papal authority. During the coronation, Anne wore the crown previously worn by Henry when he was crowned king. However, Henry's hope of having a son who would be his heir was not fulfilled when Anne gave birth to a baby girl named Elizabeth, who later became Queen Elizabeth I. Henry seemed very disappointed by this fact. He had divorced his loyal wife, alienated his own daughter, and opposed the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church, all to marry Anne, who promised him a son, but didn't deliver. Henry's dissatisfaction and disappointment with Anne worsened over time. His treatment of Anne changed. If before, he was willing to do anything for her, now he wasn't. Henry accused Anne of adultery with several men, including her own brother, George Boleyn. He also accused Anne of using witchcraft on him, which made him obsess over her. At that time, accusations of treason also began to emerge against Anne Boleyn. Some factions in the court, including her political enemies, portrayed Anne as a threat to the stability of the state and Henry's power. These treason accusations included claims that Anne planned to overthrow Henry from his throne, used witchcraft and forbidden practices, and engaged in incest with her brother. These allegations were made without strong evidence and seemed intended to smear Anne's reputation and weaken her position in the court. Karma seemed to be lurking for Anne when she dared to betray her queen. Henry, who was already fed up, then planned a very cruel punishment for Anne Boleyn. Initially, Henry's plan was to burn Anne at the stake, which was an extremely brutal method of execution at that time. However, perhaps to show mercy or maintain his reputation, Henry changed his decision to behead her, which was considered a faster and humane form of execution. On May 19, 1536, Anne Boleyn was beheaded by the executioner sent from France in the Tower of London. The execution took place within the famous walls of the Tower of London, in front of a select group including nobles and high officials. Although Anne Boleyn was executed on likely unfounded charges, she maintained her composure and dignity until the end. Ladies and gentlemen, 11 days after the execution of Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII married Jane Seymour. Jane Seymour was an English noblewoman and had previously been a lady-in-waiting to Anne Boleyn.